Welcome. So, I have finished another book. This time, I read a biography. Well, an autobiography, to be super technical about it. I feel like I've mentioned it in other videos, but I don't really read historical type stuff, and this doesn't even really count as historical stuff, technically, really. But I do really enjoy a good biography, especially one that tells a story that's very unique and not like the everyday experience. I love just going through a person's life and seeing all the ways that their life is different than mine, and then also finding similarities within it. That's what I've got here today. Today, I finished reading A Mind Unraveled by Kurt Eichenwald. Maybe you've heard his name, maybe not. He is like a New York Times journalist. So he's kind of a big name, but I'd never heard of him before this book, but I don't also really read newspapers or anything. So in my case, maybe that makes sense that since I don't really read journalism stuff, I didn't know his name. I don't know. Anyways, so what this book is Kurt Eichenwald has epilepsy, and this book is his journey with epilepsy, and like starting from when he gets diagnosed in like his freshman year of college and going up pretty much to today. And oh boy, was it a journey. A lot of sort of like malpractice type things happened because they did diagnose him with the epilepsy really early on, but then the way he was treated for his epilepsy ended up causing a lot of problems because the medications weren't being dosed correctly, and then you're supposed to do blood tests with some of the medication he was on, and they weren't doing that. And at one point he ends up in the hospital within days of his body like shutting down because they hadn't been checking this, and he hadn't known to check it necessarily because he'd stopped like reading the labels on his medication and stuff. Oh boy, it was intense. But it was a fascinating look at epilepsy, and I think a really informational, instructional book. I don't know how much of it still applies today based on like his afterword. A lot of it does for a lot of people actually suffering with epilepsy. But I would hope that at least to some degree the world is less scared of it than when he was at least first diagnosed. But obviously when new things happen and knowing that someone could like collapse into seizures could be pretty scary for some people too. So he talks about kind of the discrimination that happens even today with that, and how the community just kind of lets some of it happen. He referenced at the very end of the book a Netflix movie that had come out. He didn't reference the title, so I don't know if you can even still find this movie, but that in that movie they had a person with epilepsy in it and then kind of played it for laughs and like a joke and stuff, and that the epilepsy community put out like a press release about it, but that the press release wasn't heavily publicized, versus if you compare it to like even an LGBTQ movie these days, or like breast cancer patients and things, if you played their situation for laughs like that, you would get a lot of flack from that community, whereas the epileptic community, because of their seizures and their concerns that because of their seizures they'll lose jobs or lose schooling or other opportunities, that they just keep quiet about a lot of things or don't make as big of a fuss as they could to actually fix things. And that's really depressing to me. I would hope that people would be able to, address these things and be able to find better treatments and things. He mentions multiple times within this book, even in his own case, and then having talked to other people with epilepsy, that a lot of the times, even though doctors are kind of mistreating them, such as in his case where he was getting these medications that weren't even being diagnosed or medicated to him correctly, that they just stick with those doctors because there's this lack of control because they have the seizures in the first place, and it's like, oh, the doctor is telling me that they know how to fix it, and then if they can't fix it, you're still like, but they're the one who said they could fix it, and so you don't try to find like a new doctor who actually is listening to what's going on, or will try different things to fix it. And it breaks my heart that people have to deal with these kind of health problems and that they're treated so unfairly. And so I highly recommend this. It was a really readable book. It was a very frustrating book because of the things he had to go through and the circumstances that were put on him by the people around him. But yeah, it was a fascinating read. I quite enjoyed it. I kind of want to gift it to some people for Christmas because I think it's a very informative read. Not that I think anyone I know is like mistreating people with epilepsy, because I don't really know anyone in my community that way, but even like relating this situation to other health problems and stuff, that sometimes we're just like blindly trusting doctors and stuff when maybe we can take a little more control of our situation and be able to be like, okay, so this doesn't seem like it's working. What other options do we have? Even things like that. I feel like this is great for pointing out that obviously we can do more for ourselves and we can have some degree of control over our health. And it's frustrating, but maybe once we get educated about our own health in some ways, then we're in a better place to take care of it too. Because obviously when he first got like diagnosed with epilepsy, he didn't know anything about it, so he couldn't really like do anything with it. But as he actually got better doctors and learned more about the medications and things, then when he had seizures in like a strange town and woke up in the hospital, things like that, he could be like, no, you shouldn't do this to treat me. Or going to a new city trying to find a new doctor, he could ask them questions that would be like, well, how would you handle this? Why are you recommending this? This is not right. I know where I'm at because of this, and this, and all that kind of a thing. And so, yeah. Also, for any medical students who may be watching, which I don't know why there would be, but if you happen to be, he makes an excellent point that you treat the person, not their symptoms. Like, you don't just use the machines to be like, oh, we're seeing these things, so we're going to treat it as this. Make sure you get a full medical history for people. Like, that was a really key thing in his getting treated properly, because there were multiple times where he was having, like, side effects from medications where the doctors were like, I've never heard of that as a side effect, and so they didn't ever do anything to try to change his dosage or things like that. And so it's like, pay attention to everything that's going on. Pay attention to the person, not just, like, what they've been diagnosed with, and not just what the machines are telling you. And that was a big takeaway for me, too. And it's, again, a good point, even in my own health. If I end up being like on a medication and I notice things and be like, hey, I don't know if this is a side effect of this or not, but like since starting this medication, this has been happening, so I think it might be, even things like that, Take control of your own health and try to help your doctors understand where your health is at and stuff too. But yeah, if you're looking for an autobiography, this was a fascinating one. That's what I've got to say on that. I'd rate it very highly and recommend it to a lot of people, because I think it had some good messages both about epilepsy and just your health in general. But yeah, I think that's all I've got for now. This is the Umlaut Harper signing out.